Hey, I'm Manav. I'm going to give you a company that needs your product right now, completely for free, as well as the messaging and intelligence report on them, exactly what to do to close them, and how to retain them. Whole thing as soon as you book a call right down below. There's a button right below this video. Click that button, fill out the pretty short form that it is. Make sure this is a fit for you. We'll make sure it's a fit for us. And then you get on the call. I'm going to be there. I'm going to give you the lead, whole intelligence report, everything. And then once you like what you see, I'll discuss how to implement this exact system into your business. Great. Now I'm going to take a step back and tell you a little bit more about what we do, which is signal-based outbound. I built a system that maps your entire total addressable market based on signals, meaning reasons to reach out, to map out the exact problems that your customers might be having, and then create outbound campaigns that trigger the second that we find a verifiable pain signal. Meaning, we're going to be able to see exactly when your customers have the problem that you solve, and then programmatically reach out to them as soon as we see that. So that's the offer. That's how that works. My name is Manav, and I run Rendition. We're focused on only one thing: building signal-based lead generation systems for SaaS companies. And over the last year, I've helped more than 10 SaaS companies generate 3,100 enterprise conversations from about 5,000 interested responses just from cold email in 2025 alone. We've helped clients close more than $40,000 in a single week. And we helped Winter, another SaaS company, generate more than 1,500 signups over 5 months. And we regularly get our customers in conversations with companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Vodafone, Aura, iFit, Point72, HubSpot, Notion, and plenty of other enterprise companies. And the reason I'm saying this isn't to brag, but instead to tell you that we live and breathe signal-based outbound. And the reason it works is simple. We're not reaching out to random companies with a generic message. Instead, we're mapping out pocket segments of your market who show an explicit problem based on their public domain activities, and then reaching out to those companies the second we know that they have the problem that you solve, which means that every single campaign we create is completely bespoke to you, the pain point your customers have, and the unique capabilities of you and your product. We run AI agents that cluster 3 to 5 of these public signals, and then we triangulate the exact problem that they have. So for example, when a company is raising funding actively and hiring aggressively and adding complementary tools to their tech stack, and they had new leadership join in because of a certain reason with a disgraceful firing of their last one, that means they're actually doing things and they're in a very clear buying window. And so because of that, we know that it's a right time to reach out to them, given that your product solves the problem that they have. And that's what forensic market mapping is, not just demographic guessing. And so with that said, I want to touch on the core problem that most SaaS companies tend to have, which is that the current model is a linear failure system. Now, what do I mean by that? The problem isn't the lack of capital to invest. Instead, it's that the capital you're investing, for example, into outbound, is being put into an inefficient system. If you're like most of the SaaS companies we speak to, your model probably looks something similar to what I'm about to say, which is that you buy a list of companies that fit your ICP on paper. Your SDRs send emails with surface level personalization. Maybe they mention the company name or recent news or a recent LinkedIn post. And then you get a few responses on every couple thousand emails if you're lucky. Your sales team jumps on calls with the people who don't understand your value proposition, who are unqualified, who you probably shouldn't be on the phone with in the first place, spend 45 minutes educating them, and then get hit with I'll think about it. Essentially wasting all of your time, your resources, and a lot of your energy. And even if you do get people that convert here, they churn extremely fast because they were never properly qualified and had expectations set to them in the first place. So on the surface, it seems illogical, but when you peek under the hood, as we've just done, it starts to come into picture that this kind of system isn't exactly the one that's going to lead you to winning. And so it's not just one broken piece, right? It's this whole system that sets you up for failure by poisoning each step after the next one. So let's take a step back and break down how this typical outbound playbook creates a series of negative cascading effects from first principles. So problem number one, which causes this whole thing, is the list. You're reaching out to generic lists, not market maps. And in fact, one thing I'd like you to internalize is that the list is the message. What do I mean by that? It means that when you can create a list of people who have a very specific situation, circumstance, problem, events going on in their life, then that means that you don't need to do any kind of gymnastics and figure out, oh, what personalization am I going to say? What offer am I going to make them? What question am I going to ask them to email? You don't need to do any of that, because all you have to do is just tell them, hey, you're on this list. I'm reaching out to you because I put you on this list, which is why I want to reach out to you in the first place. Do you see how that becomes a lot easier and a lot more specific, right? For example, if you're solving like a PDF, like a CSV export problem, right? And then we noticed that a company just put out like 100 different articles on CSV exports in their support documentation. You can be pretty sure that the company has some sort of an issue with CSV exports. Otherwise, their users wouldn't need them to put out CSV documentation. And so because of that, the list is, hey, I noticed you put out a bunch of CSV export documentation. We can help you do that, right? That's the example. The list is the message because you're specific and you know why you're reaching out. Now imagine applying that same methodology to your exact market. You have a clear reason of reaching out, your prospects have a clear reason of responding, and then it works. And so that's where step one goes wrong. When you pull a generic list of Apollo with companies with 50 plus employees in this like Connecticut with a CTO and like 7 different tools unbuilt with, it's like, there's no reason to reach out to them. That's just a group of people, right? There's no segment, there's no reason, there's no signal, nothing. You're just reaching out with a simple message that has no sales argument, nothing. You're kind of just hoping that you'll get lucky and find somebody who has the problem, which turns your outreach into demand capture more than demand generation. But anyway, that's the first problem. Problem number 2 is your positioning rather than like anything else, right? You're positioning yourself as desperate, needy, somebody who needs a sale, instead of giving value to your prospect. And then because you've been valuable to them, they're going to give you value back. That's how it works. Give and receive. And so think about it this way, right? You're probably getting 10 to 20 different cold emails in your inbox every single day. Maybe you respond to one of them maximum. Why? There's no reason for them to reach out to you and they're not giving you value. Of course you're not going to respond. It makes no sense for you. And it made no sense for them to reach out to you in the first place other than that they wanted your money, right? And that's what most outbound looks like these days. And if that's the kind of outbound that you're sending, that's why you're not getting results. And in fact, that's what most agencies are doing right now. They'll write a personalized email that'll mention your company and a LinkedIn post and then hope it just lands, right? They'll reference a funding round or something to sell on your website, and then you'll look at the copy and be like, hey, I don't think I would respond to this. Are you sure our buyers are going to respond? Then they send all the emails, you get no responses back, and then you're left holding the bag for an engagement that you didn't even believe in, right? And that's the whole thing. Because personalization isn't the game. Resonance is. What's resonance? Resonance at a very simple level is vibrating at the same frequency as something else, which in even simpler language just means you understand somebody, right? That's it. And understanding somebody is proven by showing competence and by giving them the exact value that they're looking for. I mean, think about it. If you have a problem with a CSV export, and you know this, it's a big thing in your daily stand-ups, and then you get an email that says, hey, I have the exact solution to your whole CSV export problem, you're completely resonating with that. You're saying, wow, okay, this is exactly it. I don't know how you knew I had this problem, but I need this, right? That's resonance. And that's what we do. So when we reach out, it's specifically because we have a reason. And in this case, that's the reason with the CSV company. With other companies, it's whatever their custom trigger is, which is what you and I will actually go over when we kind of hop on our call, and I'll give you that free prospect. So yeah, that's also going to be part of the questions in the form itself. So yeah, it will be good if you kind of fill that out. Just whatever detail you can do is obviously very helpful. So yeah, appreciate it. A little sidebar. Okay, problem number 3 is that nobody is testing at the signal level. And that's why it's still failing, because you're not testing. First of all, you're not even doing the advanced stuff. And then you're not even testing the advanced stuff. So obviously it's not working, because you don't know what you don't know. And in this case, this is the new way to do it, but nobody's telling you about it. But here I am. I'll tell you about it. Here's how it goes. You're leading to misaligned customer expectations from the people who come in from outbound, because they have no idea why they're even hopping on the call, other than that they have maybe a problem, or maybe they understand your value prop in a certain way. And then after the education that you do, and then they may convert, they're probably going to churn, right? If somebody has no reason to buy your product, it's not going to make a difference if you send them a video or an audit or anything, right? It's like, Nobody's testing at the signal level by testing the reasons to reach out. And so when you do that, then you can actually figure out what moves the needle for your market, right? That's why most outbound fails, because it doesn't take the context of the buyer into account when you're doing outreach. So yeah, I mean, fourth, this literally just inevitably leads to a cascade effect of higher churn rates and lower expansion revenue. And then you start to stop believing in outbound as a channel, because then you're thinking, well, none of these customers we got were good, or God forbid, we didn't even get any positive responses or any meetings in the first place. And then you're sitting there holding the bag, just being like, okay, then, well, that was a waste of time, money, resources, energy, everything. And so you just didn't, your other agency, if you had one, and if you tried outbound and it hasn't failed, chances are you may not have taken this exact type of approach of taking the buyer's context into account when you're creating your messaging and your list and everything, right? Remember, the list is the message. And when you do that, none of the cascading effects problems that happen are actually going to keep occurring, right? That's all it is. If you take the buyer's context into account, then everything gets solved, and these set of dominoes leading to worse and worse situations just doesn't fall in the first place. So let's figure out now what the actual solution is, right? And we talked a lot about the problem, but the solution to a linear system is a closed-loop intelligence engine. Essentially, a closed-loop system is a system where the output of each step is the perfect high-quality input needed for the next step, which then creates a self-reinforcing cycle of predictable pipeline generation. So what changes when you stop buying lists and start operating from a market intelligence system? So think about this. Instead of buying a list, ramming outbound volume, and hoping you're getting 5 to 10 positive responses on 10 or 20,000 emails, you're getting 5 to 10 responses on 1,000 emails. In fact, on average, we get a positive reply every 300 emails that we send. Now, magically, you have 9,000 more people in your market to send emails to, exhibiting the same types of buying triggers. You can increase the number of interested leads you're getting by as much as 10 times what you're currently doing from outbound, because you're reaching out to people with a reason to respond. And then your outbound isn't coming from an SDR with a quota grinding through a list. Your sales team isn't spending 45 minutes educating prospects, and your customer acquisition cost isn't a cost center where you're hoping for an ROI in 12 months. Instead, this all becomes predictable. Your pipeline comes from a predictable market intelligence engine that's actually done the research. Your sales team is closing people who are qualified and understand what you're doing. And then your customer acquisition just becomes understandable and predictable. And then all you have to do is just press the play button, and then it works. Isn't that a dream? Now, here's how the system actually works, right? It's comprised of 3 interconnected phases to achieve this closed-loop intelligence engine. So phase 1 is the signal intelligence layer. So we start by figuring out the actual pain that your customers have, by mapping out your entire total addressable market using behavioral data. Funding events, hiring surges, tech stack changes, geographic expansion, leadership transitions, sentiment shifts across tons of non-obvious data sources. Then we'll run AI agents that cluster 3 to 5 of these public signals together to triangulate the actual need. That creates what we call pain-qualified segments, who are behavioral clusters that indicate verified buying windows, because we're reaching out to people who are segmented by the pain that they actually have. It's in the name. Number 2, phase 2, is the campaign engineering layer. For each segment, we reverse engineer outbound campaigns from their own data. They're not just generic personalized emails, right? It's real value propositions that give actual tactical insights about their market that they didn't ask for but immediately recognize as valuable. And we can test these campaigns at scale. Think thousands and thousands of emails a day of actual, real, triggered, viable outbound messaging. And so you're not waiting months to see if something works, right? You're instead getting real-time validation of what actually resonates. And then finally, we have phase 3, which is just handing off the actual positive responses. So we've mapped your market, we've created the messaging, figured out the value propositions your market cares about. Now we have positive responses. It's very simple. We forward it over to you, or we give you access to the exact platform that does the sending, and you can do all the responses directly from there. It works very easily. All you have to do is 5 buttons, and it looks just like Gmail. Easy to do, because we've built our own version of the sending platform. So there you go. So finally, this isn't just some theoretical model that you can find from a course, right? It's worked across tens of different SaaS businesses. For example, we helped one company close $40,000 in a single week using this exact system. that we're targeting companies that were in need of funding and were rapidly expanding their teams, right? It's a very verifiable trigger, and it worked. We helped Winter, a SaaS company, generate more than 1,500 signups by over 5 months by identifying companies that were actively hiring for specific types of roles, right? It's a perfect signal that they needed Winter's solution, and by sending a lot of emails, we kind of made that happen. And we regularly get our customers in conversation with enterprises, right? Think like Amazon, Microsoft, Vodafone, Aura, iFit, Point72, HubSpot, and Notion. And so these are real conversations that we've generated for our customers. And so the companies that we target are showing observable behaviors in the public domain, so we have a reason to reach out. So finally, how do we actually build this for you? Here's what I'm offering. First, I'm going to give you one qualified lead right now, completely for free, just to demo the whole process. I've told you how we find people who have this specific need, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and give you this lead right now. A company showing active buying signals for your product category with the full intelligence report. So their name, the specific triggers they're showing, key decision makers you need to reach out to, the exact angle to use when you reach out, plus the copy you should send them. And if you send the copy to them and they don't close, I'll get you a new one. Simple as that. The process works. And if you want to scale this, here's the system. It's a comprehensive 2-week onboarding process where we build out your entire market intelligence system from scratch. In weeks 1 and 2, we map out your entire market by analyzing your ICP, figuring out the buying intent and the triggers. Then we develop 5 to 6 pain qualified segments with custom messaging angles for each. And so within 14 days of onboarding, you'll have all of this ready to go. So we can immediately start reaching out to people as week 3 happens. Then week 3, 4, 5 beyond, you're actually doing tons of testing and optimization till we find the winner. And then once we find the winner, we crank a bunch of volume into it to double down on the variants and angles that actually work. And from there, you're just getting leads on autopilot. You don't have to do anything, you just have to respond to them. Because all of the real logistical work is done during weeks 1 and 2. So for you, it's actually quite easy. For us, our real work gets started from day 1, and we continue till we start getting you a bunch of different closes. So it's generally, we like to think it's a good time. We do make you eat your vegetables, do some hard work, but when that gets done, it's a good one. So what you get is an entire live market map of your whole total addressable market. Everybody in the market you could ever reach out to who might be a fit, rebuilt dynamically as new signals emerge. Meaning every single day as we get new signals and new indications, we're rebuilding the entire thing specifically based on that so that we can map out the signals based on what's already working for you. And so we're only sending you actual positive replies with real interest. So things like when somebody responds to send me pricing, or let's talk about this, or just any type of question about the product itself, right? It's stuff that you would actually be excited to respond to. So only actually leads. Now, what actually is this? It's not an agency. That's not what we are. We are a data company that uses outbound as our delivery mechanism. So we do email and we do LinkedIn to actually reach the decision makers by creating these pain qualified segments and getting in front of them in the easiest possible way, which just so happens to be getting in their actual inbox. From there, we're initiating conversations because the messaging actually rings true with their situation after we've done all of this data science work in the background to figure out which companies are in market for your solution. And when the messaging does work, then we scale it up, and you can use it for your other channels, whether that's ad, different types of content, anything else. And the investment for us is $5,000 a month for a 3-month program where we go through and build this entire thing for you, creating a bunch of sales opportunities, meaning 6 to 8 verified, qualified sales opportunities a month, as well as everything else, the messaging understanding, mapping out your market, and essentially even further deeper insights into our current thinking on how the whole thing works. So again, $5,000 a month for 3 months to get you all of this. And we can discuss anything further about terms and whatever that looks like for your company on a call. So if this all looks attractive, please book a call down below and we'll get there. So at this point, you probably have a lot of questions running through your head. So here are some of the ones that we've heard thus far and are probably going to answer some of the ones that you might have. So number 1, can't I just hire SDRs or use our existing or another agency to do this? So look, your SDRs are great at working leads that you give them, right? They're not data scientists, they're not intelligence analysts, they're not pulling signals from SEC filings, clustering behavioral data across multiple sources, and engineering campaigns from forensic market research. Like, it's not their job. Their job is to close and create you revenue. Their job is not through the data science and predictably create top of funnel. That's my job. And agencies, most blast like a pretty generic set of copy at an unsegmented market, meaning they're just sending a lot of messages and hoping that something happens. But to be honest, most of the time, nothing will ever happen. And that just puts you in a kind of terrible position. And so what I've built looks a lot more like an intelligence operation than a marketing campaign. Now, another question is, how do I know these leads are actually qualified and not just like companies that fit an ICP? So number one, it's because we're tracking behavior, not demographics. So if a company just hired 3 new sales engineers, raised a Series B, and added complementary tools to their stack, they're not window shopping. They're solving a specific problem with the specific resources that they have, and we know that that's happening. So then we can use that information to ascertain the direct problem that they have, and then reach out to them talking exactly about that. And you'll see all of this in the intelligence report, because every lead comes with the exact trigger cluster that qualified them. So it's not guessing. Plus, when we create the list, we get to choose exactly who we're reaching out to, and you get an input in making that happen. Another question, what if this doesn't work for my specific market or product? Well, that's why the first lead is free, because to be clear, we don't want to work with companies who aren't a fit for the process, right? It's a terrible time for you, it's a terrible time for us. It's just we'd much rather avoid it. And so by giving you this first lead for free, it just works out that you understand what the whole situation is. So the system works because it's built on observable market behavior. And to be honest, that's why it works in the first place. But you get to see all of that with this first lead, and then you get to pick if this makes sense for you, as long as you qualify for the offer and everything else makes sense. But there we go. We'll get right on it. A couple more questions here. How is this different from intent data or Sixth Sense? So intent data tells you somebody visited a website or searched a keyword. It's useful, but it's pretty limited. Like, you're not going to be closing millions of dollars off of people who may have searched a certain keyword or visited a pricing page on a website, right? Like that, it's not enough to indicate that somebody is going to give you money. So what we're doing is looking at dimensional signals between like funding, hiring, tech stack, sentiment, and a bunch of other different problems, like that whole CSV example where we're looking at their literal documentation to diagnose problems. So it's pretty multidimensional to understand how this actually kind of works. Another question is, can this actually scale, or is there just few leads here and there? Well, here's the thing. We tend to test typically at about 3,000 emails a day for all of our clients. So that's the minimum testing volume, plus once we scale up, we can go up to about 10,000 emails a day. So we do a lot of scaled sending once we validate your ICP and your messaging. So yeah, more than happy to have a chat about that once we kind of get on the phone and see if this actually even makes sense for your company. What if my sales process is complex and has a long cycle? Well, that's exactly what this is built for, because you can't just get leads on demand very easily without being very specific in your targeting, right? We're handing you conversations with people who are already in a verified buying window. And so because of that, your sales cycle shortens, and magically, you filled up your pipeline very, very quickly. As far as time commitment for your team, it's completely done for you. We take care of everything. That's why I said it's hard. it's a hard thing to do. As long as you eat your vegetables in weeks 1 and 2, it all becomes very clear to do, right? So we need you to fill out an onboarding form, get on an onboarding call with us. That's all going to happen during the first 2 weeks. We're going to go back after you finish these materials, come back to you with messaging, ideas, understanding, everything else. And after that, we're going to be able to launch. You'll give us the thumbs up and approval on the campaigns themselves. And then you're just taking the conversations that we hand you, plus a weekly or bi-weekly call based on whatever cadence makes the most sense for you, your business, and your priorities. And what if the leads don't convert? Well, remember, first we're giving you the first lead free with a guarantee, which is that if you use our copy and it doesn't turn into a meeting, we'll just get you another one for free. No problem about that. And second, they're not just random contacts, right? These are people who have an actual reason to get on the phone with you and to buy. So if they're not doing that, then there's a different problem altogether, which obviously when we work together, we're going to be able to diagnose and fix. So yeah, across all of our clients, we're seeing about 40 to 60% of delivered conversations convert into next steps compared to an industry standard of about 10 to 15% from cold outbound. So as far as the metrics that we see internally, everything seems to be doing pretty good, especially given the testimonials and the satisfaction that our clients have. So yeah. Now, finally, as we kind of get to the close here, I know you've been with me for a while. This is specifically for you if you are a SaaS founder or a sales leader with product market fit, and you have a sales team that can handle 6 to 8 qualified sales opportunities. Not meetings, there's more than that on meetings, but specifically sales opportunities that are pretty likely to close. Number 3, you're ready to close deals and not just collect leads. And you understand that quality beats quantity, and you're willing to approve campaigns before they go out, and be willing to test a lot of different things to find the winning variant. Now, if you fit all of these criteria, this is absolutely a perfect fit for you. Now, just to make sure this is not for you, if you're still figuring out product market fit, if you want a massive list of cold contacts to blast, if you need 50 demos a month to hit your numbers, and you're not willing to be involved in the campaign approval process, if you're not willing to do any of that, then unfortunately, this is not the fit for you. It's a very targeted system, and we tend to be highly specific for the people that we kind of go to. So this is a partnership. We do the heavy lifting on research and campaign engineering, and you bring the product knowledge and the ability to close, as well as customer understanding up front to bring us up to speed. And so with all of that said, you have a choice. You can continue to deploy capital into the standard ineffective outbound model, or you can decide to build your pipeline as a predictable, defensible asset. And that's exactly what we do, as you've seen in this video so far. So if that interests you, click the button below where you'll be taken to a form which you can fill out. It's going to be a quick form, less than a minute, and it's just there for you to do a final check if this makes sense for you. And if it does, you can book a time with me directly. And on the call, I'm going to give you your first qualified lead completely for free, no strings attached. You'll see exactly how this works, the intelligence report, the trigger analysis, the decision makers, the angle, the copy, everything. And when you like it, because I know you will, then we'll chat about actually implementing this system into your business. This whole thing is about creating predictable, understandable pipeline for you and your company. And we are the ones to be able to do that. On the call, I'll give you a pretty brutally honest assessment of exactly what can be improved in your current outbound approach, what you're doing well, what systems need to be added, if any, and if it makes sense for us to work together, we can discuss that. If not, you're going to walk away with a pretty valuable understanding of all the gaps in your pipeline generation from outbound and a qualified lead that you can close tomorrow. So again, click the button, fill out the application, book a call, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on a call.